Hi everyone, this is Hungry Hog Barbecue, and today we're going to do a pork belly, but I'm going to do it a double style and give you the best of both worlds. I'm going to smoke this pork belly till about 195 degrees, and then I'm going to bring it inside, put it on my rack, and then I'm going to put it inside the oven and I'm going to broil it so I can get this skin nice and crispy and crunchy for you. So I've got this fresh pork belly. You see that it's got the skin on it. They've trimmed it up a little bit. I wanted it nice and meaty and fatty here. I squared it off as best as I can because I'm going to put it in a small pan face down once I get it inside the refrigerator for at least overnight so I can start letting that skin dry out. So we're going to go through the process now of what we do to prep this. You don't need to trim a lot of this fat off of this because, like I said, we're going to cook it meat side down, skin side up, because we want to make sure we get this skin underneath here extremely dried out so we can make our crackling on top of our pork belly. So with this, some of the big pieces here, I'll shave those pieces off and get it cleaned up. And then pretty much I've got it as clean as I want to get it because that fat is going to give you that succulent and very moist butter melt in your mouth flavor of this pork belly. So the first thing you could do, you can use olive oil or whatever oil that you like. I like using an easy spray canola oil that I'll spray and I'll coat the pork belly. And with that, I'll just coat that piece, and then I've got my own barbecue rub, and if you want the barbecue rub, just like the page and ask me for it, and I'll give you my secret barbecue rub that we use with the Hungry Hog competition team. So then I'll just generously put this rub on here. And you want to put it in there nice and heavy because we're going to slow cook this until we get, like I said, an internal degrees of about 195. I may pull it at 190 because I will put it in the oven, the range, and I'll broil this until I get that skin nice and crunchy. I'll take some of these big hunk pieces out of here. This is some of my garlic powder caking up on me. So we'll go ahead and let that work itself in. Kind of just press it down just a little bit, not overly doing that. And then I've got my brown sugar here also for this. Now you want to give that a few minutes to kind of set itself in, because the next process is that we're going to flip this over in a smaller pan, and you can trim yours up a little neater to fit whatever pan that you want to put this in, because then we're going to go and flip it over, and once we're going to pat that dry, and I'll show you how to prep the other side. So just hang tight with me for a second, and we'll be right back, and we'll have this flipped over in the pan. Okay, now that we've got our pork belly, the meat side nice and seasoned with your seasoning, now I've got it flipped over, and you can see that I've cleaned it up as best I possibly can, because in this process, we're gonna put this in the refrigerator overnight. So you want to really get this skin as dry and as clean as you possibly can. And so what we're going to do now, we're going to score it. So we're just going to take a diagonal score, and we're just going to score this all the way out. And I'm not going super deep, but I'm just scoring it enough that I can get some I'm going to spread some white vinegar on this to help it with drying this skin out here. This is a really good pork belly. My butcher has done a great job with cleaning this up. I've had some in the past before where underneath I've had a little bit of the pig hair still left on there, but this one's cleaned up really well. So now that I've got it nice and scored, I'm just going to take some white vinegar and I'm just going to brush some white vinegar on this so I can help dry this skin out a little bit. You just mop your white vinegar all over this process. And then you're going to apply your kosher salt. You're going to go heavy on this because we want it to, again, you'll keep hearing me say this, it's critical that you get this nice and dry. And we're not going to eat it with this salt on it because before we put it on the smoker tomorrow, I'm going to rub the remaining pieces of salt off of this. But we need the salt to kind of dry this baby out for us. So there you have it. So what I'll do at this point, I will put this in the refrigerator overnight, and then tomorrow we'll pick back up. Thank you. Hi, okay, now this is day 2 of this process of this pork belly that we're gonna put on the smoker. So we've had the salt on it. And as you can see, it's pretty much dried the skin side out or the hide side out. So now what we're gonna do, and I love using these nifty little racks here because instead of me having to continuously handle the meat, I just handle everything from the rack. So this process, we're gonna go to the smoker, and as you can see that it's nice and seasoned from this point here with our seasonings, and we're gonna go face down on the rack. So we've gone face down on the rack. You wanna kind of form it how you want to stay on the rack. And so what we're gonna do, we're gonna crank up the smoker to 400 degrees. And as we're at the 400 degrees, I'm gonna let it get some smoke for about 40 minutes. Now I will temp this because I want this to be approximately 190 to 195 internal. And then at that point, we will bring it back inside, turn the oven on broil, and then we're gonna crisp and crackling up the top, and I'll show you that process once we get there. So let's head out to the smoker and let's get this baby going. Okay, as you can see, we've got our temperature on the smoker at 400 degrees. And then what I'll do from this point, I will put on our pork belly, and I want to cook this on a high temp because it doesn't take long to get to 195 to get this where I want it, because I want best of both worlds. I want to have this put a little smoke in it, as well as I want to take it in and get that crackling. So it's kind of, you know, we're going away from the traditional roasting this pork belly. Okay, we'll see you in a little bit. Okay, now we've been on roughly 40 minutes, and you'll adjust the time depending on the size of your pork belly here. So let's get a temperature on here. We're at about 135, 134. And I want to run this up to my internal temperature of about 195. So we'll come back and check it. But take a look at this real quick here. You see how this salt is building up, is really drying everything out? That's going to be perfect for when we come to the crackling stage. Okay, we're going to come back to check in a little bit. Okay, the temperature is rising up on me on this, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it on my rack here. And I'm going to take this into the house. I'm going to put it in the oven and I'm going to come up to my temp because I'm getting a little too hot and I don't want to get it too crispy before I brush off all the salt. So I'm going to take it inside and I'm going to continue with this until we reach our internal temperature of 190. Now I've got it in the oven. I've got my temperature set for 400 degrees. And we're looking for an internal tip, I'll say it again, of 190. Okay, now that we've taken our pork belly out, we're at a temperature of internal 190. So now is the fun part. We're going to just lightly scrape off all of this sugar that we put on here to help get us our hide dry. So you're going to scrape off as much of this salt that we possibly can. We know that everything's done, but now we want to make this crackling pop here. And be careful because it's really hot. And see, this salt just comes right off. Man, it's got it nice and dried out perfect. Making sure I'm getting all that off. I don't want to eat any of that. Okay, now we're going to take this over to the oven with the temperature already set on broil. Now we have it back in the oven and we have it on broil. You can start seeing how the crackling is starting to take form with the bubbling all through this midsection here. It's going to get right where we want it. This may take up to 7, 10, and I've seen it as much as sometimes 15 minutes, but you see how it's starting to start forming its crackling. So let me close this so I can let it just do what it does best. We're about there. Okay, now that we're back, we've got our pork belly nice and done. And that magic sound we always look for. That nice crunch. So let's dig into this and see how everything came out. Oh, it's cutting very smooth. You hear that crunch and that crackling. So that's a great indicator right there. Take a look at that. That's what you're looking for right there. Succulent. Man, this crackling is really good. It smells delicious. Got that right there. That's a nice tender smoked meat. I'm cutting through that crackling. Oh yeah. So we've got these pieces here. You can see how tender that is right there. That's melt in your mouth right there, baby. A nice piece of crackling on there as well. That's my favorite. I'm gonna cut that off. It's hot too. I'm gonna try that. Nice, great crunch. As you can see, this is extremely tender. Melt in your mouth. You can just grab these up as little nuggets. Get a nice crackling on there. So with that, we got the best of the both worlds. Got a chance to smoke our pork belly till it came into an internal temperature of 190. We threw it in the oven on broil and let the top of it get nice and crispy. As you can hear that, wonderful flavor. Enjoy this cook. Hungry Hog Barbecue.